Hey guys, I've got some bad news today. How do I say this? Video games are ruined. It's crushing to see one of my favourite pastimes go down in flames like this. The economy has crippled the industry, games take so long to produce that when they're finally released, they're nothing more than a virtual ghost town. Delisted online exclusives become ancient civilizations never to see the light of day again, and kids these days have no respect for all of the hard work and innovation that's going to come crumbling down if we don't do something about it. But what can we do? Well, now that I have your attention, ruin levels are one of the all-time classic genres of the gaming world and a big favourite of mine, with games like Tomb Raider and Uncharted pioneering the explorative ambition players have possessed since caveman times. There is nothing quite like the feeling of stumbling into a destroyed relic, a forgotten place from a faraway time to spark that imagination we crave from the medium. Maybe it's just me growing up with games like Crash Bandicoot and Donkey Kong Country that ignited my passion for a good graveyard of civilization, but when I sit and think about it, this type of location always offers some of the most gorgeous visuals and dreamy soundscapes with memorable gameplay that really makes you think, breathing new life into these crumbling locations. So today I just want to spurg out on the topic, get into some ancient ruins and some more modern examples, mostly just to appreciate the art form. So I'm sorry if you were expecting some kind of hate-filled rant about the industry from a millennial uncomfortable with his own tastes expiring from the mainstream, because that's not what this video is. Okay? I'm sorry to announce that video games are in fact not ruined, but their levels certainly are. Now, this isn't going to be a ranked list or anything, more just a ramble and see where we end up, so strap in, strap on, and let's begin. You guys know me, and if you don't, well, I'm more of a retro gamer. When I think of ruin levels in gaming, my brain immediately leaps to titles like Castlevania, exploring dilapidated castles. Sonic 2's Aquatic Ruin Zone comes to mind too, as well as a whole bunch of other generic examples. Most games from this era generally use the theme merely as a backdrop, nothing more than an alternative coat of paint for its already established gameplay mechanics. As prime real estate within the fantasy adventure genre, the appearance of castles, labyrinths, and of course, we can't forget the cliche Egyptian and Aztec archetypes, all became go-to options on the wheelhouse for artists and developers. Don't know what to make for the next level? Just mock up some old temple of some kind, who cares? Yeah, there it is, plonked in between the generic desert levels and the godforsaken obligatory swimming stages. That's why you'd always see some rather out-of-place examples of this level type. The Incredible Hulk fighting undead Spartans is one that, look, I can give that a pass, but why on earth are we skateboarding through this heritage site, destroying architecture and artworks for a quick thrill? Can't we just, I don't know, race Hot Wheels instead? It's kind of funny, but look, that's not to say that these didn't have their place. As I mentioned, Donkey Kong Country always comes to mind immediately for me. Swinging and bouncing through the temples, outrunning reckless rodents, and views of the foreboding jungle in the distance between the gloriously golden buildings. It feels so isolated and mysterious thanks to the angelic music composed by Eveline Fisher, opting to focus on creating ambience instead of your action-oriented stage music found elsewhere in the game. It's It's a location that stuck with the franchise throughout the rest of time, and rightfully so. And fun fact, Eveline Fisher also voiced Joanna Dark in the original Perfect Dark game, which has a really tough, yet really awesome ruin level exploring an alien planet, and it's very late game as well, so trying to navigate this maze while fighting off scary monsters is a real treat and a banger ending to a banger classic. The transition from 2D to 3D gaming in the 90s only benefited this theme, as seen in Crash Bandicoot, with countless more examples. Cities reclaimed by nature, treacherous paths man once walked centuries ago, and all of the subterranean exploration inspired by pop culture. This was no longer just a style to throw out on a whim, now the actual mechanics of gameplay were being involved on a fundamental level. These damn platforms that spin around if you step on them, bane of my existence. Everything from the fauna, the flora, and the floor itself is now integrated perfectly into the storytelling of a location. And much like DK, Crash's levels were always ruined from time to time, establishing a cohesive theme across the franchise that even found its way into the kart racing spin-offs, which once again perfectly blended its theme into the mechanics with rough square turns and rigid obstacles. Tiger Temple, despite its simplicity, always caught my attention with that shortcut that you need to use an item to access, which starts to dip a toe into the puzzle solving elements many levels in the ruin genre lean into heavily. Of course, I can't begin this part of the video without mentioning Tomb Raider. The original on PS1 is the only one that I've actually played for myself, but man does it do such an astounding job at establishing what would ultimately become the modern standard. From buried civilizations and rusted mechanisms, as much as this is a game about exploration, at its core this is a puzzle game. Your ability to progress leans entirely on understanding your surroundings and MacGyvering what little tools you're given in order to find a solution, which creates the perfect virtual illusion of adventure. It's all very Indiana Jones, which I guess I should mention. I don't really want to look at any, movie tie-in games or anything else that sort of falls under that licensed category, because I feel like many of these examples are kind of boring. Gaming is such a rich form of entertainment in its own right that, especially with these types of environments, allows one to lose themselves in the mystery of archaeological discovery and oftentimes disaster. By the time Uncharted debuted, the graphics these machines could output had reached a point where it was realistic and immersive. You could shut your eyes and... well, if you did that, you probably couldn't see how nice it looks, but you could just imagine what it would be like to set foot in these locations. I feel like I can almost taste the moisture radiating off the plants and the smell of the lush green moss overtaking cracked stone. And lighting plays a major role too in creating that particular atmosphere that you can only really find within these types of levels. Discovering new treasures under the flicker of torchlight, and again, that intense smell of scorching smoke infiltrating your nostrils. It's the type of vibe that is what makes me love video games so much, and is maybe the only childhood innocence still left in my heart to this day. It always connects immediately, especially with the more fantastical examples. But alternatively, it is worth noting that the flip side of all this stereotypical ruin stuff is the wasteland of modern civilization. And yeah, Wasteland is definitely one way to put it when you look at all of the zombies, Fallouts, and Army Man shooter games that we've seen over the years. How this constant within the industry still hasn't destroyed the industry as a whole is beyond me. The images of a crumbling, war-torn city is something that Westerners are just desensitized to at this point, while the rest of the world is more genuinely accustomed to it, hence why I don't really want to explore this example of ruins too much. Yes, there is merit to this type of environment, especially in post-apocalyptic games, but these will never hit the nostalgic vibe quite like the other stuff. However, I do have a few that I would like to mention. Firstly are two examples from Jak and Daxter, yet another Naughty Dog IP. Set in a dystopian future, the collapsing structures of Dead Town sparked a significant shift from the colourful, light-hearted first game in the franchise, while the third game took things even further, allowing us to explore this entire map absolutely cascaded into war and rubble. I've ranted and raved about this countless times over the years. It's just so damn good, man. And the sister franchise, Ratchet & Clank, yeah, Slay Queen, also features a great example of this with Gorda City Ruins. It's a tougher late game stage without the company of our little robot buddy, making each jump that much more intense, and every gunfight puts you on the edge of your seat. And the game's little interactive elements only add to a level of destruction showcased here, which is another branch of the genre we could get into, not just ruins, but something actually being ruined in the moment. You know, levels collapsing on top of players, crumbling at our will and destroying everything in our path. These are really fun, but perhaps a topic for another day, given that it's an entirely different vibe. You know, I'm talking about stumbling into an adventure, not creating a Hollywood set piece. However, one of my all-time favourite modern ruinscapes has got to be Old New York from the Futurama game. Now look, I know that I said nothing based on anything pre-established outside of gaming, so this will be my only exception to that rule, because if there is one thing that this mediocre Max Payne wannabe excels at, is creating a hostile hellhole infested with mutant warriors, decaying architecture, and an atmosphere that just makes your skin crawl. Just take a look. And listen, as much as I don't want to open the can of worms on zombie games because we could honestly be here forever, I do need to mention The Last of Us. Yeah, Naughty Dog is 4 for 4 on this one. Now look, I've never been the biggest fan of these games, but listen, if there is one thing that I'll have to admit until the day I die, is that they excel at presenting a long-lost world in shattered streets, regrown to a natural wonderland. I mean, fucking oath, these are simply breathtaking visuals. The sight of skyscrapers in ruin, overcome with the perseverance of Mother Nature, creates the most incredible colour palette contrast that you'll ever see. You know, the harsh, rusty oranges at odds with lush greens of nature reforming. Even the shape of the landscape is otherworldly with its familiar but unnatural horizons. And now that I mention it, the Horizon games also excel with a very similar feeling. I'm still yet to play Forbidden West. Listen, I've got too many games here, my backlog is just mental, but as far as the first game is concerned, it's one of my all-time favourites, just for the inclusion of so many ruins across the barren landscape. Pockets of mankind collapsed into fractured shells of their former glory, and as an added bonus, now we can start to talk about those sci-fi ruins as well. The huge underground bunkers of technological infrastructure, a tomb for evolution, is one of the most breathtaking symbols of both genres. Horizon highlights these cauldrons as they're known with stark contrasting lighting and colours unseen above ground, with all matter of mechanical monsters lying dormant, just waiting for an opponent. It gives me real Metroid vibes, which is the perfect analogy I feel. Now admittedly, I am a Metroid noob, having only played the Super Nintendo game for the first time within the last year, but I fell in love with it. While not ruined in the traditional definition, getting to explore what must have been once a populated and lively planet, now scorched by the wrath of alien monsters, is genuinely terrifying. It's a maze down here, and it's scary for no other reason than having to navigate and map it out all alone. With no immediately clear objectives at any point in time, this is essentially a sandbox game where the player can do as they please, explore with no boundaries, with the ultimate goal, a rewarding conclusion for braving the harshest of habitats with only your blaster and your wit. If you haven't picked up on my choice of words throughout this video, well, the truth is that I need to learn how to use a thesaurus, because words like atmosphere, feeling, and vibe tend to come up quite a lot. Feeling, feel like atmosphere, vibe, different vibe. Atmosphere, feeling, vibes, atmosphere, feeling, vibe. That is the heart of why I love me some ruins in my video games, and why I wanted to make this video, is because of that atmospheric feeling that the player is granted when the genre is communicated so precisely through the screen. I don't think anything else can compare to it. The only thing that comes to mind off the top of my head would be aquatic ambience or sticker brush symphony. Those are the only things that even come close to that vibe that I'm trying to describe right now. So, I've been playing Breath of the Wild a lot recently because I never actually got around to finishing this one, so God knows when, if ever, I'll get around to Tears of the Kingdom. But man, the open world sandbox at your fingertips is honestly like no other for me. I mean, the sheer scope and volume of content is sometimes overwhelming, but nothing makes my time feel more fulfilled than stumbling into an ancient puzzle, or traversing a misty bog entrenched by stone carvings as I make a new glorious discovery. I mean, the art here is just fucking impeccable. Snap a screenshot, put it in a museum, because man, the way they nailed these vibes needs to be studied. All over this sprawling map is a litany of destruction caused by Ganon's calamity, sometimes infested with monsters guarding treasure, but oftentimes completely abandoned with nothing of humanity left to show. It's a graveyard out here, with each sword cast into the earth resembling a tombstone for a fallen warrior of the blitzkrieg that once plagued the land. In a way, the four divine beasts are ruins in their own right. These giant contraptions once manned by warriors, now laying ravage to the land they were sworn to protect. You know, I get real Shadow of the Colossus vibes playing this game, which again has many similar traits. The Team Ico trilogy are all masterful in this department, no question about it, and probably the ultimate winners of today's video. Shadow is particularly special to me given that there is just so little to actually be found out here. You know, you can travel for ages and be lucky to stub your toe on a single misplaced stone. So, when you do finally find yourself confronted with the ruins of a dead society, man, it stays with you. Landmarks like the Colosseum, huge temple courtyards, and a mountain palace in ruins. This one in particular immediately jumps to mind given that the crippled pillars are actually essential to the puzzle solving here as we attempt to slay the scary beast down below. All throughout the game, we're forced in real time to use these structures to their ultimate potential for combat, as the questionable actions of our hero always leads to the ghostly sound of cries blowing through on the wind. Alright, let's talk ghosts! Red Dead Redemption offers up the perfect example of ghost towns, failed settlements once ripe with opportunity, now a dusty eyesore on the landscape. It's something a bit different to our more traditional types of ruin levels, but still deserves some credit for achieving all of the same accolades in both the art and gameplay departments. There is something so eerily unsettling about merely existing in these locations where life once thrived, let alone that we're often here with less than respectful interests. Often the home of rebel outcasts and killers, but also no place of yours to be stealing treasure from the dead. And alongside ghost towns would be ghost ships, right? Sunken vessels flooded with aquatic life and splintered wood, surely with some gold still to be found deep below. See, we've come full circle now back to the classic years of the medium. But sunken cities are where we find ourselves at the end of today's video. Just imagine, not only a graveyard of travellers or a town ravaged by extreme weather conditions, but an established metropolis buried deep beneath the water waiting for the next brave soul to enter and uncover its secrets. Jak and Daxter once again with an absolute stormer in its debut game with the Lost Precursor City. A gorgeous blend of the sci-fi archetypes into this environment. Plenty of those old school platformers attempted this, but I don't think many did it better than this one, with these huge drums of air pockets infested with toxic chemicals and slides that sink you down to the darkest ocean waters where light cannot penetrate. It's an incredible setting, so for our final game today, I think you know what it is. Let's talk BioShock. Beneath the harsh crash of ocean waves lies the city of Rapture, a post-war marvel of the Industrial Revolution ripped in half by class status and medical advancements, ultimately abused by those dwelling at the depths. Not only is this just an incredible landscape that allowed for so much experimentation accommodating apartment buildings, metro systems, courtyards and gardens, but also laboratories and industrial factories, all the luxuries of modern living spaces confined within submerged tunnels. It's in combination with the expertly executed 50s aesthetic that make it just so damn gorgeous and terrifying. But gameplay-wise, that urge that you feel as a player, desperately trying to avoid disaster, with fear of cracks in the glass leading to cascades of water rushing in on every potential space, is simply unmatched. You've got your own little Titanic roleplay down here, rushing around surviving torment from the cracked up inhabitants, painstakingly scavenging for any kind of retro weapons to defend yourself, and constantly in the clutches of an unraveling mystery regarding the truth of Rapture's downfall. Man, it's a fucking incredible vibe down here, and listen, I've only played the first BioShock game with the remaster just a couple of years ago, and you know, much like a lot of the franchises featured in this video, I've completely failed to pick up any of the others yet, but look, as far as haunting ruins in video games are concerned, BioShock for me is top of the list in an absolutely stacked competition. So hopefully now you all have a greater understanding and appreciation for why these types of levels are just so damn good. And hey, listen, if you know of any that I failed to mention, then please drop a comment down below because I can't get enough of these right now. I'm still chipping away at Zelda, but I'm not quite finished yet, so I can't wait to finally see the ruins of Hyrule Castle up close when I get there. But anyway, remember to like and subscribe. Thank you all so much for watching. I'm Square-Eyed Jak, and I hope you have a great fucking day. Cheers, guys.